life as the city's light rail hums along its tracks. Ordinary passengers step aboard, never knowing that within minutes, tragedy will turn the train into the setting of one of the most disturbing crimes in recent memory. Her name was Irina Zarutska, 23 years old, a young woman who had already escaped one nightmare, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, only to walk into another she could never have imagined. A refugee, a daughter, an artist. She had come to Charlotte searching for peace, for opportunity, for a future. She boarded the Linux Blue Line that night with headphones in, music playing, eyes on her phone. Innocent, unaware, vulnerable. Just behind her sat a man whose very presence would change everything. 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown Jr., a drifter, homeless, a repeat offender, a man with a rap sheet that looked more like the biography of a career criminal than the record of someone still walking free. Armed robbery, assault, breaking and entering, felony larceny, 14 prior arrests, years behind bars, warnings upon warnings. And yet, there he was, free, with a knife hidden in his pocket, sitting only feet away from his next victim. The surveillance footage edited by officials, but still horrifying in what it suggests, shows the quiet moments before the attack, passengers minding their business, Irina oblivious, Brown lurking, motionless, waiting, and then chaos. Reports say he lunged forward without warning, stabbing her multiple times, one fatal blow to the neck. In seconds, her life was gone. Other passengers screamed, frozen in shock. One man ripped off his shirt, desperately pressing it against her wound. But it was no use. On the very train that should have carried her home, Irina bled out, her story cut short. And Brown? He didn't run. He didn't panic. He simply stood, walked calmly to the other end of the car, got off at the next station, and was arrested just minutes later on the platform. Cool, calculated, unshaken. For him, this was routine. For everyone else, it was trauma burned into memory. But the horror of this story doesn't end with the stabbing. In many ways, that was just the beginning. Because when the video of the incident, the prelude and the aftermath was released by Charlotte Area Transit System on September 5th, the footage went viral. Millions watched. Millions gasped, and millions began to ask the same haunting questions. How was this man free? How did a system fail so catastrophically that someone with such a violent record could be allowed to roam the city unchecked? Brown had already shown signs of mental instability. He had told people he was controlled by some man-made substance. He had called 911 with delusional claims. A judge had even ordered a competency evaluation earlier this year. But the evaluation never happened. Instead, he was released without bond in January, a decision now under heavy scrutiny, a decision that many say sealed Irina's fate months before she ever boarded that train. But as the shockwave spread, something strange happened. National coverage didn't. While local outlets reported the case, big networks stayed quiet. Democrats in power said little. And that silence, that deafening silence, set the stage for a political firestorm. Conservative commentators pounced, blasting what they saw as a deliberate cover-up. Elon Musk, the billionaire who never misses a chance to throw fuel on the fire, posted a single word on X: zero. Zero coverage, zero outrage, zero justice. In one word, he turned a local tragedy into a national conversation about crime, race, and media bias. Republican leaders piled on. Congressman Brad Knott of North Carolina called the silence despicable. Congressman Mark Harris railed against soft-on-crime policies. Local candidate Edwin B. Peacock rode the Blue Line at night and posted about how unsafe it felt, demanding tougher transit security. Former President Donald Trump called the attack horrible and vowed to learn more. White House advisor Stephen Miller and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy accused officials of hiding the truth, labeling it proof that America's cities were collapsing under crime and corruption. And then there was Charlotte's own mayor, Vi Lyles. Instead of fanning the outrage, she thanked the outlets that chose not to show the graphic footage, saying it was out of respect for Irina's family. To her supporters, it was compassion. To her critics, it was censorship. Despicable, not repeated. Conservatives argued, how can you solve a crisis if you refuse to let the public see it? How can you honor the victim by erasing her story? Online, the controversy exploded. On Wikipedia, a page created for Irina's murder was nominated for deletion almost immediately, with moderators citing poor grammar. But for the internet, that was proof of something darker: censorship. Netizens accused platforms of burying the story, deleting Reddit threads, erasing posts. Screenshots flew across Twitter. They don't want you to see this, people wrote. And in that digital storm, the killing became more than a crime, it became a conspiracy. All the while, Irina's friends and family grieved. Colleagues at the pizza shop where she worked mourned her bright smile. Artists in her circle remembered her creativity. Neighbors remembered her kindness. But in the media circus, her name became a symbol, a weapon wielded by politicians, pundits, and platforms. She became the face of debates she never asked to be part of. The deeper you look, the more outrageous it gets. Brown's record showed not just violence, but mental health collapse. Yet he slipped through the cracks every single time. The judge who released him without bond in January, Teresa Stokes, is now facing whispers of conflict of interest. How many red flags were ignored? How many warnings were missed? How many lives were put at risk? And for what? Meanwhile, cats scrambled. Officials admitted that Brown hadn't even paid his fare. He simply boarded the train without a ticket, unchecked, unnoticed, a system meant to ensure safety had holes wide enough for killers to walk through. In the aftermath, promises were made. Stricter fare enforcement, more security, new equipment. But for Irina, those promises came too late. This is why the case refuses to die down. Because it isn't just about one man with a knife. It's about a system that failed, a city that wasn't prepared, leaders who looked away, media that stayed silent, and a country that seems to lurch from one tragedy to another, never fixing the cracks, always reacting after it's too late. And so, the debate rages. Was this silence from the media intentional? Was it bias? Was it fear? Was it politics? Or was it simply negligence? Conservatives insist it was deliberate, a narrative buried because the optics didn't fit the agenda. Progressives argue it's being exploited, turned into a wedge issue in the middle of election season. But the truth is this: a young woman is dead. A repeat offender is behind bars, finally indicted for first-degree murder. And the systems that should have protected her stand exposed. So what happens now? Brown is set to undergo a competency evaluation at last. He will likely spend months, maybe years, in legal limbo before his trial. Transit authorities promise reform. Politicians promise accountability. But history tells us that outrage fades, reforms stall, and victims are forgotten. Will Irina be forgotten? Or will her death mark a turning point? That's the haunting